Brownie Sunday, wake up in the late afternoon. Call Rod Bloom just to see how he's doing. Yo, what's up, Rod? Hey, Chad, what's happening? You thinking what I'm thinking? Cleveland sports talk, man, it's happening. All right, welcome into the Brownie Sunday podcast. Once again, we are your hosts. I'm Chad Painter. With me, as always, is Rod Bloom, and a special guest today with us on a special podcast is Cam from Canada. What's up, guys?
Hey, Chad.
Gentlemen, how are we?
Doing great.
So
really excited about this, man.
Yeah, better now that you're here and to tell us about Eric Metcalf and your exclusive interview with him. So, Rod, I know that Eric Metcalf's like your favorite player, right? Or he's up there.
Oh, he's definitely up there, yeah. I mean, it's hard being a Browns fan to have one favorite player, you know. I could name 4 or 5 guys, but, man, he was so exciting to watch, you know. And we'll get into all that with Cam in the interview, but, yeah, definitely very excited about this.
Yeah, we were just talking earlier with him, and Cam, it sounds like you just have everything laid out to talk with Eric Metcalf. You got the whole life story, didn't you?
You know, it was just an unbelievable opportunity, and I'll tell you, Chad, when that tap opened and he started to talk, it had nothing to do with the questions that were asked or anything like that. You could just tell that there was so much inside of him, not that needed to come out, because obviously he's had, you know, interviews ad infinitum. This is a mega star. I mean, this is a Pro Bowler, an All-Pro that's nominated for the Hall of Fame this year. So, I mean, it's not like he hasn't had a trillion microphones in front of him, but just the opportunity, I think, for him to go back into that initial Pop Warner part of his life and then walk all the way through and culminating at the very end with a vision for what it's going to be like the day the Browns do win a Super Bowl, and his connection to that and his connection to Texas when they won it in 06, you know, feeling his own blood, sweat, and tears that went in to help build that program, and the same thing that's going to happen with the Browns and has happened with the Browns. Just so exciting, but just such an articulate and just wonderful man, like just an incredible opportunity to talk with a guy. I truly, you know, people say this all the time, but I felt honored to be on the call with him.
Yeah, I think, you know, I got a chance to listen to this, and I don't know that anybody else has yet. And just to sit back and listen, I mean, you're really drawn into this. You really feel like you're kind of a part of the conversation just listening. And, you know, I normally wouldn't be one to build things up, but I think this interview really deserves to be built up. I think everybody is going to really enjoy what Eric had to say and the way that Cam led him through everything. And, you know, when you get to the end, you're like, wow, you really feel like you've learned a lot about Eric and kind of, you know, got a good picture of him, you know, not only as a player, but as a person. But you kind of just feel like everything's been covered. And I'm really excited to get this out and to have some people hear it and get some feedback on this, because it is an excellent interview.
And Cam, you wrote a very thorough summary really on Eric's career, what he expects from this current Browns team, and just everything that goes on in this kind of outline of your interview with him. So we're going to link an article to this podcast as well. We're excited about that. Can't wait to read that. So you've really produced amazing content for this interview. So thank you so much for putting this together. I know you had a blast doing it.
Absolutely. And, you know, one of the things that Rod talked about in terms of just the enjoyment and people being able to learn about Eric through this interview, I feel, and I don't mean this in any way other than just the most complimentary and positive, I feel like it was actually an opportunity for Eric to truly roadmap his own career. Like, it just felt like there was a completion and just a thread that just tied from day one right to the very end. And when I had a chance to take him through to that moment, where are you going to be when you win the Super Bowl? I don't want to give too much away. Who are you going to be with? What are you going to do? And, you know, what are you going to be eating? What are you going to be drinking? That kind of thing. So I really hope, if nothing else, that a great man like Eric understands, number one, how much this fan base loves him. And that's one of the things I wanted to touch on and ask about. What does it feel like to still be front and center? I mean, this guy is synonymous with the Cleveland Browns. And that's one of the things he said in this interview. All I want to be known for is being a Cleveland Brown. I mean, how incredibly emotional is that?
Yeah, I can't wait to get to this interview, man. And, obviously we have a Browns game tonight. They're playing at Mile High Stadium. How do you think the star former Browns running back, synonymous with the Cleveland Browns, Cleveland Brown through and through, would play in tonight's game that is kind of a playoff game in itself for us? I mean, that's what Joel Bitonio came out and said this week. This is our playoff game.
Are you asking me?
Yeah. How do you think that Eric Metcalf would play in this game?
It's funny. I touched base with him in the interview. We talked not a bit. I pushed him and prodded him because, I mean, when you call yourself 20 wonderful, you have some confidence. There's no question.
That's right.
But at the end of the day, he's still extremely humble. And that's one of the things that I've learned about him as I researched him is this is a guy that was wearing the beautiful suits, the designer suits, the beautiful watches, driving the best cars, but still a salt-of-the-earth humble guy. Flash and dash, but just a truly humble guy. So I asked him, and I had to push him, what would you do in today's game? I told him 12 and 12. I think he'd go 12 and 12. 12 receiving, 12 rushing. Because let's remember, this is a guy that had no problem moving the ball. He caught 104 balls one year in Atlanta. I mean, that's unbelievable. So what would he do tonight? I think with the pressure, I think what would happen is they'd have to adjust to him. Obviously, with having Miller and Chubb, they'd have to adjust and they'd have to take care of that, underbelly part of the defense just past the line of scrimmage. If he played a Christian McCaffrey type role, I think he would really, really impact this game significantly. And that's one thing we don't really have right now on the Browns. For some reason, Duke Johnson hasn't surfaced. There's been some issues. I don't know what they are, but I think he would expose that Denver, the early part of that secondary and the linebacker crew. I just don't think they could possibly match up with them.
And that's exactly the point I was going to get to. That's kind of what we as Browns fans today want to see in Duke Johnson. And I'm sure you've talked about with Eric, or at least you thought that there's flashes of Duke or there's flashes of Eric Metcalf in Duke's game and should be and could be even more so in the future if he really gets on it.
Yeah, Eric is so special. I don't know if I'm prepared to put anybody on our roster into that mode. The only guy I can think of in the NFL right now that really, really fits and that I would think would be similar to him is McCaffrey. Yeah. And we talked about that. We talked about that as well. I mean, Belichick came from a run it, 3 yards and a cloud of dust type successful program in New York. And when he ended up coming through to Cleveland, and Eric was very humble about it. He said, we were a bunch of guys that hadn't won anything, and Belichick had won a Super Bowl, and he knew what he wanted, and we made it real difficult on him, just to kind of capsulize that, not verbatim. But Eric took ownership for that and said they made it, somewhat difficult on Belichick, and they were stubborn. But Belichick started to adapt, I think, in and around his third year with Eric, and then they started to innovate and do some of that West Coast stuff. So, yeah, it's I don't know. He's special. Like, I don't think we as Brown fans really understand how innovative this guy was. This guy was a multi-purpose mega back.
Yeah, he could do everything. And so I'd love to see him in tonight's game. I'm excited for being able to see the Browns tonight, and I'm excited for this interview. So let's get to it, man. I want to hear your interview sitting down with Eric Metcalf, and here it is. Cheers.
So I'm on with Eric Metcalf, Browns legend. Eric, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Oh, it's tremendous. Yeah, no, I have an opportunity to ask you some questions here on behalf of the publication Cleveland Sports Talk, and just a great honor to speak with you. So we were just talking here. We're a couple of guys both born in 1968 and both live in the Pacific Northwest, me on the Canadian side of the border. And, well, actually, I'm south of the border in Canadian waters, and you're down in Seattle, and you're coaching track down there?
Yes, I am. I was coaching at the University of Washington, and now that's since changed because of coaching changes, but now I'm coaching a couple professional athletes. One, in fact, who was actually Canadian, a long jumper, a girl who's a long jumper with hopes of making world championship teams and Olympic teams.
Excellent. So will she compete as a Canadian or an American?
She would compete as a Canadian. Yes.
Excellent. Well, they say the best way you can get citizenship in any country is to be really, really good, and they need you on the Olympic team.
Right. And she's decent. She's a long jumper, and as of now, Canada only has one real good long jumper. So the chance of her making the team are great if we do what we're supposed to do, and I think she's headed in the right direction.
Good stuff. So getting along that theme now, Eric, in terms of high school, you grew up in Arlington, or you played your high school days in Arlington, Virginia. So you made the switch to Texas. What was that recruiting process like? I mean, we all see the stories and we hear what it's like. I was a Canadian university guy myself, so it was pretty modest when you go to one of those schools. But what was it like? And when you start getting recruited by a school of the magnitude of Texas, did it have the components that we hear about, the recruiting trips?
It really did, and in fact, I would say my 5 recruiting trips that I was able to take. I went to University of Georgia. I went to Miami, Nebraska, Texas, and where else did I go? Georgia, Miami, Texas, Notre Dame.
Notre Dame,
right? And so those are my 5 visits. It was a wonderful time. I in fact committed to the University of Miami. Okay. A lot of people don't know that, but I committed to Miami, but my parents did not want me to go there, right? Because of the Miami stigma, they didn't want me to be a part of that, and I was only 17 years old. So
right.
At the end, I had to tell Miami that I wasn't coming there on signing day, in fact. Because I was still trying to convince my parents that was the school for me, but they weren't having it. So I didn't sign, and I still was being recruited like a week after signing day, and so I actually signed. I actually signed a week later than everyone else. But yeah, it was a great time. I'm 17 years old. I'm taking these trips to these colleges where they really want me, and they're trying to sell me the best time of my life. And so, you can just imagine how that is for a 17-year-old kid who's just trying to decide what schools. I mean, it's like you want to commit everywhere you visit. But, it worked out for me. I went to Texas, and it was a great time, and I'd do it all over again.
Now, Eric, even as a 17-year-old, being as grounded as you were, well-raised, a family that cared deeply for you and that type of thing, really great direction. Did you have a little bit of a pull? Did you know, even with the Miami thing, did you know something didn't feel right there, or was it not that way at all?
For me at 17, I thought everything about Miami felt right. When I walked off the plane, I was like, "This is where I want to be. I want to come here." And it was because it was a fantastic time, and like you say, when you're 17 years old, all you're thinking about is fun. You're not thinking about, is this going to be the best place for me academically as well as athletically, and being a track guy as well. How would I be able to do that and everything? So because their track team at that point wasn't really that good. They are now, but they weren't then. But there's those factors that a 17-year-old kid really didn't think about, and so. When it's all said and done, I'm glad that my parents were like, no, you're not going there, because it worked out for me. I didn't win that many games. I didn't win a national championship. But when I think about it as an individual, it worked out just perfect for me.
For sure. So now you and your dad, so your dad's Terry, and I know Terry not just from the NFL, but also he came up to Canada. Mm-hmm. And was he up here? He was in Toronto with the Argonauts?
Yes. Right.
Now, was he up here for how many years was he with the Argos? 1 or 2?
I think 3.
Okay.
I want to say 3, yes.
He was unbelievable up here. But, a lot of people don't realize when guys come up to Canada, a lot of people don't realize how difficult the jump is. A lot of great players have come up here and not done particularly well because of the big field, and it's a different animal. But your dad was a tremendous NFLer. Your dad was you and your dad actually parallel each other pretty much in terms of numbers. But your dad was one of only a few people. He had that 10,000 yard all-purpose number, which is incredible. Now, you had a very, very special number. I'm going to get to a point in the question here. You had that 500, 250, 250. Now, do you know what I'm talking about?
No.
500 touches, 500 catches, 250 kick returns, and 250 punt returns. You're the only person in the league that did it up until about 6 or 7 years ago. Who broke your record, or who did it alongside of you?
Sproles, maybe?
Darren Sproles. You and Darren Sproles are the only ones that have done that. So that's quite a feat. Now, so you are a pro. Your dad's a pro. You're a pro's kid. Now, I come from a professional family. My dad was an academic professional type. So as a guy who followed in his footsteps, if there would have been an NFL, my dad would have been in the NFL of academics. He was just one of those guys.
Okay.
Now, I never had to be like him when I was 9. I never had to be like him when I was 11. Like, you don't go up and give a business presentation at a tryout with a bunch of kids and parents when you're 9 or 10. But when you're a pro football player's son, I mean, that brings, number one, a lot of accolades, and a lot of people want to have you around for sure. And I'm not suggesting there was pressure, but just take us into the cleats. What's it like to be the son of a legend? When you show up at that Pop Warner camp, or when you show up at that high school camp, what does it feel like, Eric?
Well, it could be a difficult situation if you're not ready for it. I mean, there are a lot of guys, I'm sure, who've actually felt that pressure of being the son of a former player, whatever sport it is. And, and I think for me, I didn't really feel that pressure because I hate to say it, but I don't hate to say it because I knew I was good.
Right.
So I didn't really feel that pressure. So I expected myself to go out there and play football and play well. And I expected myself to do that because all I wanted to do as a kid was be like Terry Metcalf. And if I could be like him, then I felt like I'd be okay. And so that was always something that I aspired to be and just wanted to be just like him. So when I worked out as a kid, when I just even to my high school and collegiate days, I just thought about trying to be better than my dad because I knew that he had an awesome career and did a lot of great things in the NFL. So if I could get close to that, I would be okay. And so because of that, any pressure that I felt was pressure that I was putting on myself because I just wanted to be successful in that right.
And let's face it, you weren't a 5'3", 175-pound Polish kid who their parents had some fixation with, dad was an offensive lineman, but we want to make him a quarterback. Like, that's not how it was. There was some twitch flowing around in you too. So, like, at the end of the day, you had some real good genetics and you had some good opportunities as well, right?
Oh, for sure. I had great genes. I mean, I know my mother and father's high school coach. Then they had me in high school, but that when I met their coach when I was older, and he was like, "I used to tell your mother and father that if anybody can make a good athlete, it would be them."
Right.
And so it worked out, and things worked out. And my mother beat me in a race when I was a kid, and I quit because I was so upset that my mom could beat me in a race. And so so she had enough athletic ability to help me out. So I got genetically, I got it from my mother and my father. And so, like I said, it worked out well, and I'm just so happy that I had the opportunity to play in the NFL, to follow my dad's footsteps and make Cleveland Browns fans happy.
Have you seen Myles Garrett with a shirt off?
I have.
Now,
I have.
His family, I mean, apparently his parents are just athletic freaks as well. Now, can you tell me, you're into anatomy, you're a coach, I mean, you're learned. What is that group of muscles that sits just below his latissimus and just above his glutes that he's got something going there that I've never seen before. I don't even know how you develop that. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You said just above, you said where now?
Right below the lats, just around the spine, below the lats, and just above the glutes. He's got something going there. It almost looks like there's you remember Alien when that thing was trying to get out of the stomach? It's like that.
Oh my God. I don't know what that is, but he's a specimen for sure. I mean, you know, and he's a specimen for sure. And, you know, and he's playing good football, and he's one of the reasons that the Browns are where they are, because he's able to rush the passer and pressure the guys and get them to do things that they don't want to do, and that's how you win games. And I'm just happy that, you know, that we're at a point where we have players who can be dominant when they step on the field, because it's been a long time since we've actually had that. And people, we have players that people weren't really scared of, but now we have players that people are scared of. And when you have that, we can go out there and win games.
Exactly. And I want to bring you to the Browns now. So you go to the Browns in '89. You're coming out of Texas. So you get there. You have Bud Carson. Did you have Bud Carson for a year?
Yes, Bud Carson for a year and a half.
And then the evil one came in, right? Bill Belichick. He's evil now. I mean, we loved him when he was there, but we didn't love him, but we liked him. We saw some good things, but he came in. Now, Bill didn't use you. Well, I mean, can I say this? He didn't use you.
You can say whatever you would like.
He didn't use you. Is it comfortable for me to say it? He didn't use you well until I think was it your third year when he started using you as an all-purpose guy?
Well, you know, here's the thing. I would always say that no one used me properly, right? But at the same time, Bill, we have to respect that Bill came from the Bill Parcells tree, and so when they played in the NFC East, all they did was play smash mouth football, you know, run the ball every play, and so and they won Super Bowls. So with that in mind, that's what he knew, and that's what he had been successful with. So that he was just trying to develop that kind of system early when he first got there, and so, you know, so that's, it's kind of hard to say he didn't use me properly when I know what he was trying to do, but for me, it just didn't fit, because I wasn't that type of running back. I wasn't a guy who could carry the ball 25 times a game between the tackles. I was a guy who would thrive today because in Bill's offense, because what did he do? He take James White, they spread him out all over the field. He runs the ball, he catches the ball from all over the place, and he does well doing it. And so if I were playing for Bill now, he would probably love me.
Oh, absolutely. Now, so sorry. So now you see the transformation. We'll touch on this a little bit more. You've been through every single era of the NFL. You've been through run heavy. You've been through pass heavy, pocket, statue passers. You know, you're starting to see the RPO come in now. You're starting to see, you know, where I think half the time the quarterback and the running back don't even know where the mesh point is. So now you're in a position where you are seeing some of the things that Belichick did with you and June Jones did with you, correct?
Correct.
Now, those guys are innovators, and you see that full cycle come back. So my question to you is, I mentioned June Jones. Is it fair to say, because June Jones is coaching up here in Canada now, he's coaching up with the Hamilton Tiger Cats.
Right.
Absolutely tremendous. He and Jerry Glanville both. Mm-hmm. Now, they did a great job. I know people that know him really good. Now, is it fair to say that June Jones would have been a favorite type coach of yours?
Oh, he's definitely my favorite. I mean, because, you know, June, when he traded for me and explained to me that he wanted me to play the slot. And it was something that I didn't think I'd be able to do. But June was like, you'll come in here, you'll catch a whole bunch of balls, you'll make a lot of plays, and I guarantee you will love it. And
105 balls?
And I was like, sure I will, June. Okay.
Would you catch 105?
104, 104. But I didn't think I didn't think it was going to work out, but it did. But he promised, and then at the same time he allowed me to run the ball as well, and of course I caught punts and kickoffs, and so I could say that was the best I was used because it gave me more opportunities, and so I was one of those players that like I said before, I'm not a guy who's going to be able to go carry the ball 25 times in between the tackles. But if I have the ball a lot of times, I could probably make a play. And so being in Atlanta, it gave me the opportunity to catch a lot of balls, run the ball from time to time, and still return kicks and punts. And so that's all I ever wanted to do was just get the ball in my hands as many times as possible and see if I could make something happen.
So you find yourself now, better yet, I'm going to ask the question. There's nothing worse than someone who tells someone what they think. Is it fair to say that right now you're seeing things go back full circle to some of the things that you and June Jones and even Belichick a little bit innovated back then?
Oh, for sure. Because, back when we were playing, everyone said the run and shoot was no good and you couldn't win with it. But now it seems like everything that everyone does is similar to the run and shoot. And so the college coaches adopted it and made it famous, and now that's what got these pro coaches to start using that type of offense. And so now everybody's using it because they know they can get their best athletes out in space. And so that's all you're trying to do is get your best athletes in space with the ball. And so now like I said, if I would play today, I think I would have had a field day out there. And
I was going to ask you. I got to ask you. And you know what? Like you're a confident guy and you're not braggadocious. How many do you put up? You're all purpose. If you're looking right now, let's just say they have you doing nothing but playing a Christian McCaffrey type position. How many yards could you put up catching the ball and running the ball?
Oh, I don't know.
25?
I don't know. I think I could. I think, I've often said if I were playing today, I mean, there are a lot of good running backs and there are a lot of good systems, but I think the way Christian McCaffrey is being used in Carolina, that's who I would want to be.
Right on.
Because I would definitely want to be him because it seems like they put him in the perfect position almost every play, and that's a wonderful thing when you know you're going to get some runs, you know you're going to get some passes, and you can just have the opportunity to make plays for someone who's always touched the ball and had the ball in their hands. That's all you want. And we're smaller guys, so we don't want to get hit, but we still want the ball. So Carolina has found a way to give Christian McCaffrey some runs, let him catch some screens, let him run some pass routes and things like that, and get the ball in space and use his ability to the fullest.
12 and 12?
I don't want to say that much, but I think I could have been like 1,000 for sure, and that was always my goal. And that was always my goal, because when I was growing up, I used to think about how Roger Craig did it, and that's all I wanted to do.
Yeah, Roger Craig, was he special or what? And now a lot of people say, that team was so stacked, and they talk about Rice and talk about Lott and talk about Montana, but Roger Craig was just so special. He was so special, wasn't he?
I don't care who's on that team. When it's all said and done, he went out there and did what he had to do. And so anyone who could say that they got 1,000, that's special. That's rare air. And so not many people can say that, and he definitely can. So I appreciate what he did out there for sure.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions now, and we're going to get to Cleveland. Nothing too taxing, just some interesting, funny questions maybe. You see Bill Belichick in the airport in Nebraska. You're connecting. Mm-hmm. You guys have a 5-hour layover. What do you guys? Do you do something with them? Do you just say hi? Do you go for dinner? What do you do?
I would talk to him. I would love to talk to him because even though I felt like I wasn't being used right at that time, I knew that Bill was a good coach. It was his first gig. He was coming to Cleveland from from the Giants. We had a bunch of stubborn veterans who wanted to do it our way, and but he was trying to set up his program, his team like he wanted it, and so it was tough. And so I think that's what really held us back, is the fact that we were trying to do it our way because we were veterans, and he was trying to do it his way because he had already won, which none of us had done. So and so that was hard. So I would love to talk to Bill, because he, like I said, he was an innovator. You can tell he was going to be a great football coach, and it's worked out for him. I mean, I'm sure now everything will be peachy, because I know now, just watching the way he uses James White, that he would, if it was back in the day and he was doing the same thing, that he would love to have me.
Absolutely. Tell me, Brian. Sorry, go ahead, Eric.
No, so I would just, like I said, I was just about to say, so I would just love to say, I mean, that I would love to sit down and talk with him about that, because I know it would be just fine.
Tell me a Brian Bosworth story.
Ooh, a Brian Bosworth story.
Nothing that's going to get him or you in trouble, but
What
was it like? What was that era like? Like, how good was he? He was a great college player, wasn't he? Or did you see some weaknesses in him?
So of course, me being a Longhorn and him being from Oklahoma, a Sooner, we had to play each other.
Of course.
So my story would be my freshman year. We're playing in the Red River Shootout, and I get the ball. He comes through on a blitz, and we happen to be running a draw at the same time. So he's blitzing, and he's got a free run at me, and he almost decapitated me.
Yeah.
And I was like, I never had a chance to do that. And everybody, they're all yelling, they're excited because he got to hit me like this. And all I could think of, if I had some space, he would have never hit me. But
you're thinking about the next play,
right? All I need is a little space, but I never got that opportunity. And then there was another situation when he kind of got dinged up against us. So he was on the ground, kind of hurt, and
shoulder.
I think so.
Yeah.
And so it's during the game, and if you've probably never been, but when you go to the Red River Shootout, one half of the stadium is orange, the other half is red.
Yeah.
That's how they divide it. And so he was hurt, and he was laid out, and the whole stadium was quiet and everything. And I guess everything was all right. So he gets up and he raises his right hand, and all the folks in red start yelling on that side. And then he raises his left hand, and all the folks on the left start yelling on that side. And then he takes off the field, and everybody in red just starts yelling. I'm like, can you believe this madness?
Yeah. Just larger than life, hey?
Right. Yeah, he was at that time. He sure was.
Now, what about here's another question for you. Let's talk a little bit about, it's a good segue into talking about the modern Browns, or today's Browns.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to talk about the modern ones. We want to talk about only about today's ones. So you're 4-2, I think in 1992. Is it 92, the Eric Metcalf game?
So, that made us 5-2.
You were 4-2. Was it 1992 though?
93.
93. So this was your fourth year in Cleveland?
Yeah, so 89, 90, 91, 92, 99, fifth year.
Okay, fifth year in Cleveland. So you played one more after that, correct?
Yes.
So you're 4-2. The Steelers are 4-2. It's just a massive game. Like, what did you feel going into that? And if you won't surprise me if you say, you know what, just another day. It's just the way it went. But what did you feel like before it happened? What did you feel like as it was happening? And then what did you feel like after it was over?
Okay, so if I said it was just another game, I'd probably be lying to you, because it wasn't just another game. It was about the division lead at that time.
So you're geeked.
Sure.
You're geeked,
so,
right?
So I'm geeked. But remember going into that game, we weren't sure if I was actually going to play.
I remember you weren't supposed to play,
because the week before I injured my knee in Cincinnati when somebody fell on me in an awkward way. And so So I didn't practice all week until Friday.
Yeah.
And so I did, and I told Bill, I'll be all right. I'll be able to play. He made me practice. I said I'll be able to play. I'll be good. I'll be just
Now,
fine.
does he care about you as a person and as an athlete in your future at that point? Like, are you feeling he's caring about you?
But but Bill's one of those guys back then, especially. He was one of those guys. If you didn't practice, he didn't want to play you,
Right.
because he didn't know if you're going to be ready, you're going to be
Right.
able to sustain it throughout the course of a game, and which I obviously respect. And
Right.
so,
but is he coming from an angle of, hey, Metcalf, what the F? Or is he coming at you from an angle of, like, he's not pressuring you unduly like that? You think he's concerned and he cares about you?
No, he's not pressuring me at all. He's just
Good.
like,
Good.
you going to practice today? Can you go? Blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I can go. I'm good.
Right.
I'll be just fine. And then, and so, we go out there, and of course, they punt it to me. We run it back. And, I didn't really expect that to happen. I didn't know how fast I'd actually be able to run, after not really practicing and after kind of hobbling through the week. But we have great blocking, of course, and we were able to take one back, and it was a wonderful thing. And the one thing I always remember about that is Stephon Moore coming to me after and saying, "We're gonna get another one."
Wow.
And and I'm like, sure we are, because that never happens. Of course everybody says we're gonna do something, but it really never happens. And so towards the end of the game, obviously, the game's on the line, they kick another one to us, and is blocked perfectly again, and we get the one that he says we're gonna get. And that was a feeling that I've never felt. I don't say that's the best game I've ever played, but because of the way Cleveland fans feel about that game, it makes me want that to be the best game I've ever played in.
Chris Collinsworth, if you remember, he was doing that game, I believe it was Collinsworth, and he said, Eric Metcalf, along these lines, Eric Metcalf was not supposed to play today because of a bad leg. And he said, yeah, did you see him limping down the sidelines with the ball at about 4? He looked like he was limping at about a 4.2. Do you remember? Do you know that he said that?
I remember that. I remember he said that. Yeah.
Yeah, hilarious. So we move into today's Browns. So I've been a Browns fan for over 40 years, Canadian guy, but just love the team. As a matter of fact, when the Browns went away, I was going to school. I was doing some postgraduate studies out on the East Coast. And I was dating a girl from New England, and actually did make the switch over because of my affiliation to Massachusetts. I switched over to the Patriots just because I went to a lot of games there, and I made the switch right back as soon as the Browns came back. But I've been through, I know on a personal level, it's just been terrible and it's been hard. So I think we've gotten, I'm going to give some credit to the last guy that was in here. I thought Sashi, brought some good guys in, and he did some good work contractually and accumulated some good draft capital. But Dorsey's come in and done some good, very, very good things as well. Now, I feel like we're out of the woods. I feel like we're out of the dungeon, so to speak. What do you think? What do you see right now? Where is this team headed, Eric?
I think they're definitely heading in the right direction. John Dorsey obviously has some great picks. Trades, got some people in, and the team and the atmosphere just feel different when you're around there. I didn't know how it was going to go after Hugh got fired, because normally it doesn't go right, because players start to think about playing not to get hurt, who's going to be the next coach, where am I going to go next year, and things like that. And so it usually doesn't go right. And so that's what I was worried about when Hugh got fired. And so but the team has responded behind Greg and Freddie Kitchens and all that, and they've been professional, and they're going out there and playing. So I think what they have now is something that can be special, because everybody believes now. There's a culture that people believe that we can go win games, and it's not about not losing games. And so with that in mind, I think we have draft picks, we have cap space, we have a lot that we can get more players in here to get us to the next level. And I think the players that we do have, and it'll be a spot where now free agents will be like, okay, I wouldn't mind going to Cleveland. Whereas before, what would make a free agent come to Cleveland?
Money, and easy life,
and money and easy life, and that's it. But when it's all said and done, everybody wants to win football games, and I think I think now we have players in place where people wouldn't mind coming to Cleveland as a free agent to go out there and just try to win games and possibly get to the Super Bowl.
Unbelievable. Yeah, it's quite a transformation. When you mention that too about the money and win games, like I think there's been an earnest, and it's not about me here today, in my opinion, because we want to hear yours, but I think there's been an earnest attempt. Like, I don't think anybody has come in here and just flat out said, hey, I'm going to go there and I'm going to milk it. Like, I think everybody came in with the right intentions, but there's just been that vacuum that just seems to suck the life and suck the ambition out of guys. And, it's just a combination of a bunch of bad stuff. So there's no point in getting into that. I agree that it's heading in the right direction. Now, what can go wrong? And I'm not trying to be negative, but what do they have to avoid here?
They have to avoid, just players leaving. Yep. You never know what's going to happen with the coach, the new coaches come in, whoever it may be. I mean, I think if they don't keep Greg and Freddie and those guys, now you have to worry about new head coach, which means new coordinators, which generally means new systems. And so when that happens, now we have to worry about, are we going to have the players that we have doing what's best for them, doing what they're good at? And so it's things like that I know John Dorsey and those guys are obviously think about that. When you have Baker Mayfield, there's no sense in you lining up in the I formation and running power runs. You should run something similar to what he ran at Oklahoma, right? You give him those opportunities because that's what made him successful and that's what made you want to draft him. And I think those are the type of things that these guys are thinking about. They're trying to make it where he's comfortable, where the team is comfortable. And then when you do that, it makes it easier to go out there and play. And like I said, I think we have a lot of good players and it's going pretty good right now. We just got to keep building on that and get more players and get guys doing what they're best at. And when we do that, the sky's the limit.
What's John Dorsey afraid of right now in the coach search?
If it were me, I'd be afraid of failing. Because there's been so many coaches since the team has been back that everybody's expecting that he makes the right move. And so, I think he knows when he thinks about this every day, which we know he does, that it has to be the right guy or at least close to the right guy. Because nobody thinks about a coach as a short-term coach. I'm sure when he's thinking about this coach, he's thinking about, I want him to be here 10 years, and build with him. And it's going to be all on me when I make this call. So I think those are the type of things that he has to think about. And those are the type of things that make it hard for someone in his position because you got a whole franchise.
Eric, what's the magic number for Greg Williams? Is there a magic number that he hits? So he's got 8 games right now. He's 3-2. Is there a magic number where they just literally can't do anything but bring him back?
I don't think so. It's hard to say, but I don't think so because I think and we're not Dorsey. None of us are Dorsey, and we don't see it the same. But I think he probably has a vision of what he thinks his coach should look like and what he wants him to be for this franchise in the future. And so with that in mind, Greg might win the rest of the games, but if that's not what Dorsey's vision is, then that's probably not where he's going to go. Because he can't be sucked into that when he has a vision of what he wants this franchise to look like. He has to go about doing it the way he feels it needs to be done in order for this franchise to be successful, not only next year, but in 10 years and so forth, just as like New England has been.
Now, you're 50-ish. I'm 50-ish, right around the same age. We're starting to be familiar with the term ageism. Do you think that Greg Williams is fighting that? I mean, everybody wants the new, sexy, young, I want to say hair gelled, but Greg's got his hair gelled, so I can't go there. But do you think age is going to hurt him?
I don't think so, because I don't think age will hurt him because he's already there and he's doing a good job with what he's with the team right now. So I don't think age will hurt him. I think if he doesn't get it, it's like I said once again, it's about what John Dorsey's vision is. I mean, and so that, I think that would be the only thing that would hold him back, because I mean, like I said, they're rallying around him as a head coach, and he's doing a great job with these guys and getting them to go out there and fight and compete, and that's what it's all about.
So Eric, how happy are you right now? You've been around a lot more this year, and even over the last couple of years. Like, it must feel really good. Like, so many guys have played here. I mean, like, there's been trillions of guys who have worn this jersey, and most of them are quarterbacks. But in all seriousness, I mean, like, I'm not talking about the rush from it, but just that wholesome feel. Like, I belong in Cleveland. Cleveland loves me. I love Cleveland, and I notice you're around a lot more. What's it feel like to be a part of this and still be? I know you're humble, but what's it feel like to still be front and center in a city with this much tradition?
Oh, I love it. I mean, I just because when it's all said and done, whenever I talk about my career, I really only want people to think of me as a Cleveland Brown.
Yeah.
And so I love the fact that, that, and a lot of people might not believe this because I've said something, but I want the Browns to win. That's my team. It's that's who I played for. That's where I had most of my success. That's what people know me as, a Cleveland Brown. And so I love the fact that I can say, oh, we're going to win games. We're in the mix. That kind of stuff. So if I'm given that opportunity, which we haven't been given that opportunity in a long time, but I appreciate the fact that these guys are going out there and playing and letting people like me be able to say, oh yeah, and wear the colors with pride, because I'm going to wear it anyway, because that's just who I am. But it makes a difference when you're actually winning games and wearing sweatshirts and things like that.
So I'm going to walk you through, in closing here, some Super Bowl scenarios, because I think we all believe that this group is going to try to build this team to win a Super Bowl, and I don't think it's as far off as some might think. So who are you with when the Browns win their Super Bowl? In your dream scenario, who are you standing beside? Who's with you?
Some former Browns, because we're all at the stadium and we're having an opportunity to be there in person and experience it.
Yeah. What did you have? What did you guys have for lunch? What do you have around you for lunch? Just let's get into the taste and the feel of it. What's your snack you're having?
Vodka tonic.
So you're not going to play. You're not playing that game. Okay.
We're going to have fun because, it would be something that nobody has ever seen. Okay. And so we, as former players, we have to take pride in the fact that the franchise has finally been built up to a point where they have the opportunity to win the Super Bowl. And I know this is how I feel, and I'm going to tell you why. Because when I was at the University of Texas, I only won 24 games. But when Vince Young and those guys won the championship in 2006, it was a feeling like I was a part of that team because all the blood, sweat, and tears that I put in as a Longhorn, and although we didn't win, it was like these guys won for us players before them,
Absolutely.
and so that's how I feel like it would be for whichever players got that opportunity to possibly be winning that game or playing in the Super Bowl. I think they would feel that same way, and a bunch of former players would be elated if they won it, just because we know that we helped build that team.
Absolutely. How happy are you for Bernie? He's fully incorporated back in. Just a great love affair again between the organization and Bernie. How happy are you for him?
Oh yeah, I love BK because he's the ultimate quarterback, and he could do. He was so smart, and he helped us be who we were because of the way he played the game. He studied. He showed us how to study, and he taught me, a lot about the offense and what it was supposed to look like, so he helped me be a professional, and so and that I'll always love him, and always happy that he gets to be a part of the organization, and hopefully just he's there when they're winning the Super Bowl.
Right beside you, maybe the first person you hug. Ernest Biner
sure.
too. Ernest Biner.
Kevin Mack for sure.
Absolutely.
Reggie Langhorn. There's so many guys because we all went through a lot, and still love each other. And that's the one thing you miss when you leave a team like that, is that the camaraderie and the brotherhood that you've shared with these guys over the course of years, and then at this some point it's just over, and that's when you always miss that. But we had great times and good teams, and we didn't win the Super Bowl, but it sure felt like we did.
Eric, unbelievable honor and pleasure to be on the phone with you tonight, and only a few miles away from each other, interestingly, but on the phone for this conversation, and just fantastic. I said it would only be a few minutes. It stretched out to about 45, but I'll tell you what, I think people are going to really enjoy this. So thank you so much for your time.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Okay, Eric, thank you.